All right, good afternoon, YouTube. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing a program by Broken Verdict. So there are a good amount of program reviews that were sent in that I'm kind of behind on, quite honestly, just because of work, school, and of course this, but no excuses, right? So I am trying to catch up with the program reviews, but I do want to try my best to space them out just so that way it's not just like the same thing over and over and over again, kind of, right? But in today's video, it's going to be Broken Verdict's power building program. So he has provided his stats as well as a little bit of information about himself. So let's go over that. First, he has been in the gym for about 2 years with long femurs and very long arms. So your leverages can determine and like the way you're built can determine like what exercise selection just works better for you. So it's good that he's putting them in there. As a result, my quads are not the strongest, and hence you will see more quad volume. I also have a resilient lower back and can withstand a large amount of volume. So seeing his numbers are pretty high. So unfortunately it is in kilograms. So for all my American boys who, like myself, measure things in cheeseburgers and football fields and dishwashers, this is going to confuse us. But thankfully we have a tool known as Google. So let's see, looking at his current deadlift, it's 225 kilograms. So that's really good. That's a really strong deadlift. And he wants to get that up to 245. So 540. That's wonderful. His back squat is 170 at the moment. So 170. Still very, very good. Super strong. Strong guy. Front squat, 125. 25. So 275 front squat. That's good. And then his bench is 95 kilos. 95 kilos, which is 209. Okay. So when it comes to having long arms, yeah, it's no wonder why your bench is like just, in relative to everything else, just a bit, lower. I'm not saying you're weak or nothing like that. Strength is a process. Strength takes time to build. So, you're just at a different spot, and different lifts will get better or worse depending on the lifter. So there's nothing wrong with your bench, and you're trying to get it up to 110. So that's 242 or 245 because that's how we measure things out here in the States. He also brought up his measurements as far as what he's looking for hypertrophy. One thing that I quite honestly never did personally, and this is just a personal thing, was I never measured myself. Like at least did muscle mass measurements. For me, it was just kind of like, do I look good? And that's a very subjective thing, but that was kind of enough for me. So if you for me, the reason why it was like simple enough was just because if I look good, then I don't really care what the number is. I look good. But if the number is what you're really looking for or something like that, or you think, or you equate a number to looking good, then that's your prerogative, then that's all good. So let's see. So from the looks of it, it's a 2 block cycle. So it's 2 4-week cycles followed by a test week. And then you're probably going to run that multiple times. I'm going to recommend just right off the bat that you actually lengthen that out to at least 3 blocks. So 12 weeks. I think 12 to 16 weeks is just a bit better as far as what you can do for accumulating volume, for what you can do as far as moving through different thresholds and maximizing your progression. I think just having 2 blocks and then a test is a bit short, quite honestly. So I don't think that that's going to benefit you as much as it would if you did like a 12 or 16 week. And those are short cycles. 12 to 16 weeks are not long at all. When it comes to the way I like to program, I like to take things as sustainable methods that can just be ran throughout a yearly cycle. That's what I kind of prefer. I got that idea from Alex from Alpha Destiny a long time ago, and I just kind of ran with that and then went from there. So let's go ahead and start with the program. It's a lower upper split with an arm and back day. So it's a 5-day a week split. I usually recommend that most people train with weights 3 to 4 days and then having a 5th day for something else, cardio, conditioning, some type of sport. That's usually my general recommendation. Now, if you are going to be doing 5 days a week in the gym, 5 days a week of lifting weights, that can be done. There's ways to do it, and there's ways to do it well. It's just a kind of a matter of what we're going to be going over today to see if that's the case here. So one thing that worries me as far as like my ability to review this accurately, is if, for example, someone sends me a program and I don't know for sure if they mean, let's say 80% for one set of 3, or if they mean 3 sets of 1. So like 1 rep for 3 sets, or 1 set for 3 reps. I would appreciate for any future program reviews to kind of put that in there. Sometimes it's fairly obvious, but this is a case where it actually can go both ways and still make sense and have pros and cons for both. So let's see, because like if you look here, right, he goes to a top set at 80%. Maybe it's just like top sets of triples and then top sets of doubles. To me, that makes the most amount of sense rather than doing 3 singles and then 2 singles. But I mean, that makes sense too, kind of, if you think about it. But that's why it's kind of like I would appreciate you writing out, is it sets times reps or is it reps times sets? Because I see it both ways when it comes to like how people send me their programs, but when it comes to how I'm used to seeing it, it's sets times reps. How I write it out of my programs is sets times reps. So let's see, 80%, 85%, then 88%. So this is a wave program. So this is yeah. So, and then it goes up again, 92%, then 95%, then 100% for, is it 1 set of 2? Because that's, you know, like 100% is usually, it means your 1 rep max. So you're trying to hit a double on your 1 rep max, or you're trying to hit a 1 rep max twice. So both of that is kind of iffy to me, especially when week 9 is your test week. It doesn't really make sense to go to 100% having like, because 100% to me is like, that's a test. That's when you're testing. Like, so it doesn't really make sense to me that it comes into the training block, the training cycle. If you are going to be going to 100%, it should be going on week 9, where you do take a deload to kind of recover and everything like that, like flush out some fatigue and then actually test the weights. So I would say that this is a little ambitious as far as like your weight selection and your percentage selection. Following your back off sets, so 65% for 4 sets of 3 or 3 sets of 4. And then, because I'm trying to think what makes the most sense here, quite honestly. Does it make, like, this is why I was like, you know, the whole sets and reps things. Does it make more sense that it's 4 sets of 3 and then you do 6 sets of 3? No, I probably wouldn't. I don't think that's what you're aiming for. So I'm going to assume that you're trying to volumize by adding reps each week. So week 1, you do 3x4. So I'm going to assume that it is, sets is here. So yeah. Sets is the second value. I'm going to assume for the rest of this program that sets are the second value, because you're keeping it constant, and I don't necessarily think that increasing like your sets to this degree is going to benefit you all that much. I mean, I get it. There are ways to increase your like set volume because it is a more drastic and more potent training stimulus as far as things go, where if you do 2 sets of 12 and then next week you do 3 sets of 10 and then the week after that you do 4 sets of 8, you know, that can change things. Or even if you just do 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, and then 5 sets of 10 throughout 3 weeks and then go back to 3 sets of 10, like adding sets in that way is very disruptive. But given that your reps are so low, if we were to assume that this is your sets, then I just don't really think that that's going to be all that beneficial for you. Let me zoom in a little bit so that way it's a bit easier for you all to see. So sorry about that. So yeah, like really ambitious weight selection here. One thing that I'll say though is that if you can handle it, I would be inclined to say that maybe your 1 rep max is just a little outdated, or you are just, you know, incredibly resilient to heavier loads. That's possible. That is very possible. Anyway, 65%, 4 sets of, or 3 sets, 4 reps, and then the next week you keep the same weight. So here we have a wave, but here we actually do kind of like a step loading approach. Step loading can occur in kind of like two different ways. One where there is a little bit more of linearity between, let's say, sessions or weeks, and then another where it's just like for 3 weeks you were sticking with the same weight no matter what, and then you jump to a bigger weight after that. So step loading can vary in that way, but regardless, this is a wave because intensity is being waved up, and then this is more akin to step loading because you're sticking with the same weight, but you are adding volume each session. So you're adding 2 reps per session. And then you deload. I don't know if you included your deload protocol, so I'm kind of curious to see what that is. And I really do appreciate this. Thank you so much. So thank you for sending me your program and trusting me with my opinions, I guess. And yeah, so I get it. I really do. I'm not super against it, but at the same time, it just seems like you could have kept it a bit tighter. Me personally, because here's another thing that kind of makes this a bit difficult, right? You are trying to progress both at the same time, but I mean, like, it's not really all that bad because of how low the percentage is, but it's something worth noting where because you're trying to lift heavier and heavier, you're entering each subsequent set more fatigued, and then you're trying to do more reps. So your strength endurance needs to be like on point more so as the weeks go on. And obviously that's kind of the point because you want to be, what is the word I'm looking for? Like you want to challenge your body in a sense and like accumulate as much fatigue as possible. But at the same time, you want to make sure that it's productive, that you want to make sure that it's actually conducive to progression in the long term, which is, I wonder what's going on with my dog. Sorry about that. But anyway, like it just doesn't seem to be friendly for that, quite honestly. It doesn't seem to be taking into consideration that, yes, you are going heavier. So let's think about some modifications I would make as far as your progression. There's 2 trains of thoughts that I have been going on in my head, which is I am a really big proponent and fan of either adding reps or keeping volume very linear, like very similar across the weeks, but then adding weight. So a linear approach. So here, like given that it's a top set and back off set approach, one thing that I would say that would benefit you, especially for something like the squat, is to just do a top set at 80%, and you can wave if you want to. I personally would actually keep it around the same for all 3 weeks and just try to stick within a certain range. Do a top set at 80%, and then do back off sets where you take off like 7.5% or more off the back offs, and then just try to get as many quality reps as you can. I think that's a very good way. Steve Shaw is where that idea kind of comes from, and I think that's just going to be a bit better for you, considering that this is a power building program. Now, if it's straight up just powerlifting, like then who knows? Maybe there's a bit more conversation to be had there, but I don't necessarily think so. And then, like I said, these percentages are just absurdly high. Like let's say, like let's do the math on this just so I can like kind of see things. Like a 5% jump is pretty big. Like a 5-pound jump is not that big of a deal. A 5% jump, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. So let's look at your squat, right? So you said your squat is currently at 170 kilograms. So 170 kilograms. All right, so you're at 170 kilograms for your squat, and that is 100% of your squat. Now let me pull up a calculator. Like, I don't think you guys can see this, but that's fine. Calculator. All right, so let's see. So 375 times 0.9. That's 337. You're going up. Yeah, well, I mean, I could have done this in my head, sorry. But you're going up like 37 pounds Like that's a big jump. Like a 5-pound jump compared to a 37-pound jump. Like you can take big jumps in strength training. I'm not saying that you can't, especially if you are like going through a wave loaded approach. And because your back off sets are so light, maybe you can get away with it, but I wouldn't necessarily count on that personally. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned as far as like your squat. So there's that. After that, you're going to be doing front squats. Very heavy too, from like, so it's just very interesting to me. Like, one thing I want to ask is this currently what you're doing? And then the next thing I would ask is it working? Because if it is, then, you know, like if you're not getting hurt and you're making progress, then like whatever my opinions are, don't listen to them. Like I should probably put that in the beginning. But anyway, yeah, if this is working for you and you're not getting injured, I'm going to recommend you keep going. But as far as like for anyone else watching this, yeah, maybe don't do this. So you're already, let's see, like 3, 6, there's 6 sets in, you're 6 sets into squatting. Pretty heavy with the exception of the back off sets, but because you're doing a lot of rep work with it, it kind of compensates a bit, but it's, like I said, it's pretty light. But even then, because of the fatigue you're packing on, because of how heavy you're going on the top set, kind of, and the fact that you're doing it for 3 sets of 1 at that much is kind of concerning. And then you have front squats where you're intensifying your front squats. So you are volumizing on the back off sets and waving and intensifying the top set, and then you're waving and intensifying the front squats as well. This kind of training is, it's not my first choice, quite honestly. Like, I mean, I get it, right? You start from a place of like lower stress to more moderate stress to higher stress, but given that it's so condensed and trying to apply it to so many different moving variables, that's not my favorite thing. If you're going to be doing a wave, like let's say you're doing a wave for your deadlift or something like that, usually what I prefer is like keeping other things in the program fairly stable, but also like accommodating it in such a way that it actually helps you recover, so that way you can actually do your heavy deadlift work and then everything else on top of it without too much issue. So then after that, you're doing a 5-inch deficit Romanian deadlift, 4 sets of 8 to 12, top of the range. So if you hit 12 on the first 2 sets, you're going to add 5 pounds, which is a very reasonable amount to add. And then lying hamstring curls for 3 sets of 10 to 15. So what I'm seeing here is basically a strength program, which the quality of which I'm concerned about. Like, I'm not going to say just straight up it's questionable, because, you know, it's, I mean, I guess it is kind of questionable. It's just that you're aware of many principles, right? Let's see. This is an interesting shift in sets and reps as well. I want to point that out. 3 sets of 8 to 4 sets of 4 to 4 sets of 2. So this is 24, this is 16, and this is 8. Pretty steep drops. So, I mean, I guess. But I don't know. It's not my preferred way of programming power building. Then 5-inch deficit Romanian deadlifts. So 4 sets of 8 to 12. I would hope, I don't know, for me personally, because of like how intense everything else in this program is, I would kind of stick this into a lower RPE bracket, or like just make this a little bit easier work. Like, not so easy where it's just like it's pointless, but easy enough where you just do some straight sets and then like add weight over time kind of deal. Just because if you're trying to hit like, oh wait, I'm highlighting the wrong thing, sorry, but like right here, like just because if you're trying to hit like an AMRAP on each set, like going to failure, and then you use that to progress on the accessories, like, I like that approach, but given the fact that it's in a program where you've already done all of this, it can make it a bit like sketchy, you know? And then also on top of the fact that I just don't think you need high bar competition squats and front squats on the same day, personally. I would just go into the Romanian deadlifts. So that's Monday. That's just Monday. So let's look at Tuesday. Hypertrophy, upper body. So close grip Larson press. That's fine. Wide grip floating seal rows and forearm curls. That's also fine. One thing I'm going to say is that if you do this, I would recommend that you actually use straps. Like for rowing, I just recommend straps in general, but even more so here because you're supersetting like forearm. You don't want grip to become a limiting factor as to why you can't hit your back and upper back and rear delts appropriately. So straps if you're going to do forearm curls with rows. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that superset. One of my favorite things to superset is actually rows and triceps. Like doing a push and then a bicep and then a pull and then a tricep exercise is one of my favorite supersets. So I would kind of prefer to see that here. And then you do 4 sets of forearms. Oh, no. This is part of the superset. So forearm, 4 sets, as many reps as possible. Okay, so anyway, like scratch that. Then you do a 30-degree incline bench plus weighted pull-ups. 3 sets of 6 to 9. So top of the range is 9987. That's fine. Me personally, like this is like not even for any like thing scientific. I just like seeing 9 just bugs me. For whatever reason, 9s, 7s, and like just those weird like do you know how long it took me to be okay with like seeing 4 as a viable number of reps? Just took a while, okay? But anyway, like there's nothing wrong with it, but if you are going to be going for that kind of like as many reps as possible approach with this kind of work, why stop at 9? Just make it 6 to 10. It's still a relevant and big enough intensity window where like if you do a top set of 10, you're likely to hit somewhere between 6 and 8 or something of that nature. So 6 to 10 is one of my favorite ranges as far as volume work goes. So why not just go there? And then pull-ups, 3 sets of 3 to 5. Yeah, that's weird. So here, is it switching? Like I'm just so confused with that. I'm sorry. Like this program review is being altered by that. but whether or not it's sets first and then reps. 3 sets of 8, 4 sets of 4, 4 sets of 2, 4 sets of 3, 6 sets of 3, 8 sets of 3. 1 set of 3. It makes sense for it to be 1 set of 3, doesn't it? Because then, oh man, I'm like tripping myself up high key. But anyway, did I just like shit on this man's entire program and not even read it properly? Yeah, some doubles and then some 4 sets of 3. So this is 5 total sets. Okay, 5 total sets. This is 4 total sets, so 4 sets to 5 sets. Okay, that makes it a bit better, like in my head, right? No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, bro, but this thing, like these parts right here are just mad confusing me. So I'm just gonna move on. But yeah, are these weighted? Is this? If this is weighted, I personally still find it a bit low. No, okay, it is weighted because there's a bodyweight AMRAP at the end. That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. We'll make this a bit wider. 4 to 8. 4 to 8. If you want to go heavy, then that's fine. But like make it 4 to 8 at least. I don't think triples and 5s are going to be like within your best interest for this exercise. I personally would see 4 to 8 as the lowest for pull-ups. Then a superset of lateral raises, neck curls, and dumbbell real dare flies. So nothing too crazy there. Easy bar bicep curls, tricep skull crushers, and then neck extensions. So neck work. Nothing too crazy there. The volume seems a bit high. Like I'll start with that. One thing I'm going to recommend as a general recommendation is just if at the top end, right? At the top end, 18 to 20 sets per day. Like that whole, like whether it be per muscle, per movement, like we can talk about that another time. But as far as like just the day in and of itself, I'd recommend just 18 to 20 at most. That's a general recommendation, just a general guideline. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I do think it would be beneficial. Then you take a rest day on Wednesday. That's cool. That's cool. And then you have your deadlift day. So I'm going to reread this and assume now that I've seen the accessories, I should have looked there earlier. that this is one set of 3. So you're doing a triple at 80, then a triple at 85, and a triple at 90. Once again, these jumps are pretty damn substantial. Me personally, what I would prefer to see is, let's say you do a top set of 1 to 3 reps, right? Where on, and this is also leads into my other point earlier where I said, like, build out the block, man. Like, extend this range out. Like, don't be in such a big rush to test. So let's say week 1, it's 80% for a single. Week 2, it's 80% for a double. Week 3, it's 80% for a triple. You hit all 3 of those, you deload, and then you go up maybe 2.5 to 5%. And then you do that same process. You hit it for a single, then a double, then a triple. This will last you about 12 weeks before, like, because I've tried that. Maybe even shorter. I personally would recommend that with the deadlift, you do just volumize, but you use variations. Now, you can keep the deadlift in there for heavy single work, no, that's no problem, or for like heavy work in the 1 to 5 rep range, that's no problem. But as far as like all your other rep work, let's say 4 to 8, 5 to 10, or whatever, all that should be done with stiff legs, Romanians, deficits, trap bars even, and I would much rather prefer that over what we have going on right here, which is just really abrupt waves. Now, if you are going to wave things with the deadlifts, yeah, you're gonna need to, like, you're gonna take big jumps and you're going to take like time off. Like, that's how deadlift waves work. That's how waving works in general. But the amount of time that you can do that is just very, very minimal. And I found, at least for me, rather than trying to accumulate a shit ton, like, rather trying to train my deadlift in such a way that, you're progressing week to week or block to block, I kind of prefer to do something where, yes, that is occurring. Progression is king, right? But the main thing is I'm accumulating more overall work and, taking a bit more of a block approach to it, and then slowly transitioning into styles of training that are more conducive to this heavier type of loading. So let's say for a long ass time, I'll do step loading. And then for another set of time, like, it becomes a bit more linear where I leverage whatever I did in step loading to start out with that higher volume and then slowly taper down. And then from there, I go into like a very quick abrupt wave before I go back into a period of time, like maybe like most of the year, half the year, where I'm just accumulating reps. I would much rather prefer to see that. Wide grip floating steel rows and forearm curls, so the accessories look the exact same. Like, volume is still pretty high, and then you have a Friday hypertrophy lower body day, so 7 sets for quads and then like 6 sets for hamstrings. So 45-degree back extensions with the Romanian deadlifts, I kind of would prefer if you have, from a power building perspective, if that means anything, you do your Romanian deadlifts and then you do the leg curl. I think that this is a lot of work on your lower back. Even if one is substantially lighter, it's still just a lot of work, man. So it's just a lot. After that, you have lying hamstring curls, 3 sets of 10 to 15. So 1 second, let me just pause real quick. All right, sorry about that. And then lying hamstring curls. So there is 9 sets of hamstrings, and then 4 sets of quads. So this is a very much lower body day. Let's see. There's a lot of work here, There's a whole lot of work on the upper body days, but then the lower body days are considerably shorter. So I would move some stuff around. And on top of the fact that you have, let's see, so you rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. So this is another strength day. So let's see. You lied to me, man. You told me it was a lower upper with an arm day. This is a whole other day of progression. My mans. This is a lot. Let me see if I'm reading this correctly, okay? Okay. Monday. Tuesday. Okay. Wednesday you rest. Thursday is the arm and back day, but that's where you put the heavy deadlift. Friday, this is literally your one light day, but kind of not really, considering that, it's a shit ton of volume. and then you have Saturday. So, hey man, like I said, if this is working for you, you're making progress, you're not getting hurt. Cool. But I doubt that's the case looking at this. I'm not trying to like, dude, I really hope that, you know, you understand that, I'm not like roasting you or anything like that. And I'm not trying to make you like, make this seem like any more than it is. Like, I'm just kind of like joking and bantering with you, if anything, but at the same time, like trying to like help you also. This is a shit ton of volume. You can move around some of the supersets, I think, but at the same time, like, I mean, it's only 6 stuff, but I mean, it can get a lot when you're like this deep, and like after all this, like, you have enough energy for maybe one of these, man. Like, at least that's what I would feel. Now, maybe I'm just a lazy slob and you're just, you know, an incredible athlete. So who knows? That's possible, right? But this is your one light day. Everything else, you have something that you're pushing like some pretty hard progression on, man. So that's why I would be very careful with what you're doing here. And like, look at all the lower body fatigue that you're doing. Like, I get it, the seal row, it's kind of like, oh, like the seal row definitely does limit the amount of lower back fatigue. But just because it limits the amount of lower back fatigue you're getting from that movement, it doesn't give you permission to go onto your other days and say, I'm going to put literally all of the lower back fatigue. Now, that's not what you're doing here, because, you know, this is 2 different machines and everything like that. But I mean, like, you're squatting pretty hard. You're deadlifting also very hard. And then you're also doing like Romanian deadlifts. You're doing Romanian deadlifts on a different day. So the amount of hip hinging that you're doing, so let's see, you're doing hip hinging on your first lower body day. You're doing it on your deadlift day. You're doing it and you're doing it the next day on your hypertrophy lower body. So I get it. The deadlifts can go on a back day. There's no real problem with that. It's just a matter of, are you matching everything else in the program to accommodate the fact that you're treating it like a back exercise? So you got to be careful with that, man. Beyond that, like I said, like, this progression is too quick. These waves are too quick. The numbers, I don't think that they're the best example of like a good wave. There's nothing really wrong with the exercises, and I do understand the purpose behind the exercises. And this definitely will build muscle. As far like the exercise will build muscle, but it's a matter of like the amount of sets that you're doing. You really need to think about your training economy, man. Like 90% on your bench press and 90% on your overhead press in the same day, while also trying to push very difficult progression on a weighted pull. Like, I'll be making, like, with my programming series, this is what it's kind of like to provide insight on. The more heavy work you do in a day, the less overall work you can do. Like, that's a very oversimplified look at things, but it's true. You can do a day like Friday only because most of it is on machines. Like, your own, like, this is a free weight exercise. This can be a free weight exercise depending on how you want to load it, if you load it at all. And then this is definitely a machine exercise. So it's kind of like, you know, you're just going to the gym and touching machines. Nothing wrong with that if that's okay with you. But me personally, I like the feel of a barbell. So but the thing is, I can't do that for 5 days a week. I can do that for 4. So I do it for 4. But yeah, like, given the fact that you're just pushing so hard on so many different movements all in the same program, it's just not going to work out all that well for you if you're not going to be using variations, like self-limiting variations, and also just thinking about your overall recovery. Like, I get it, you have your rest days on Wednesday and Sunday, but that's 2 days of rest, man. And then 2 days of rest when you're also trying to force your body to progress this quickly and handle this much load that quickly, it's not going to end well. The waves you don't have enough time accumulating volume. You are progressing weight way too quickly. Like, look at this jump. Like, it's a 5% jump, then a 3% jump, a 3% jump, and then a 5% jump. It's very, very quick. So this is kind of why, when it comes to the way I prefer to progress, It's very slow, very gradual, very volume based, especially for power building. This is just too quick. And then the exercise that you do after the fact that you're trying to progress them in that same way, it's kind of counterproductive in my opinion. Usually what I like to do is like, yes, treat one exercise and train it like a strength exercise, but then you leverage that by getting a lot of volume through other variations that are going to help out. So let's say you do your deadlift and then you do front squats to help you get some push off the floor, because it's like a carryover to the deadlift, and it's also like more conducive to rep work, right? You worked your heavy hinge, you worked your front squat, and then you do some other supplementary exercises, like let's say a back extension, a hamstring curl, a good morning, something of that nature, where you're actually able to get some work done, right? And then on the upper body hypertrophy day, Larson press, like these are all fine exercises in and of themselves, but like I said, your volume is just a bit high, and it just seems like more thought went into the other days, and this day was just kind of well, let me just see what other people do. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it, but that's not a horrible thing, you know? Like we learn from other people, we try out what they do, and then we integrate it into our own knowledge and then make things better. That's knowledge. That's getting wiser, that's getting smarter. So there's nothing wrong with that. And then the waves, the progression that you're running on your main lifts, just it's too quick, it's too heavy. It's just not going to end out well. In addition to the fact that with a 5-day split, like I mentioned, there's ways to get it done, but it's just most of the time I never really see it done correctly, because it's the inclination to be like, well, if I'm going to go in there, I want another hard day of training. No, if you were adding in that 5th day, it's literally because you just want to go to the gym. Like you want to go to the gym, and then you think to yourself, I should get a hard workout in. But then what ends up happening is, because you have that kind of mindset, that hard workout turns into something that limits you down the line. You actually need to make sure your program facilitates recovery. So if you're going to do a lower upper, like lower upper upper lower 2 times a week plus an accessory day, that accessory day better be light as all shit. It should be almost entirely machines, volume training, RPE 6, RPE 7 at most, calisthenics, some easy shit that's just like, you know, you break a light sweat, like nothing too crazy, nothing too difficult, where it's just like active rest. That is how you program a 5th day. Anything beyond that, in addition to a strength program where you're trying to go heavy multiple times throughout the week or something of that nature, like let's say you have a volume day, an intensity day, or a strength day and a size day, or something of that nature, and then you try to have an accessory day, it just kind of seems like to me, it just seems like you would have a much better time if you just spend that time recovering. Go for a walk, dude. Go for a run. Just play a sport. Pick up boxing. Pick up jiu-jitsu. Something like, well, maybe not jiu-jitsu, because like you'll like crank your shit and then can't put on your socks, much less bench. So like 5-day splits, I understand them. I get the appeal. I know why we want them, you know. I don't know your life situation or anything like that, but I also know why they're popular and everything of that nature. So, but going this heavy, this often, with this rate of progression, it's not going to end well, man. So, be mindful of that, bro. If you would like to reach out to me and make a program together, like I do have that option on my website, and there's also like, you know, all the resources on my channel and all the resources that I'm going to be putting out in the future. So sorry to plug my shit, but yeah, like I would much rather see just something else. Like if you want a wave loaded progression, that's fine. But you know, just there are ways to make it better. If you want to use step loading and everything like that, there's ways to make it better. If you want to kind of have this approach, there's ways to get it done. There's ways to like have it be made. And yeah, all that can be found on my website and the link in the description below. Get a custom workout program, or, you know, find another template that you like and then modify that. If you don't want to pay for a program, that's what I did literally all my life. I found a template I liked. I found a template that interested me, and then I just made modifications as time went on. So that's what I would recommend to you, man. This program, it's just worrisome because of how much volume and intensity there is on the same day. And then like, you know, going basically from day to day too, almost. Like, let's see, Monday, Tuesday, like this, it's still a difficult thing to recover from, man. Like, even if you're recovering from a different stimulus, this is more intensity based and this is more volume based, you still need to think about how those two relate in terms of your recovery. So yeah, I didn't mean, I really hope that this is more of an informational thing. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not. I'm genuinely just concerned for you, you know? Like, I really am not trying to just like say this is like just bad. And because it's not, to me, it's just something where it's just like, you know, you have a lot of good ideas. You have a lot of good ideas. You have a lot of things that interest you, and you have a lot of things that you want to implement and try to get better at. But there's also that part of it on that side where it's just like, you also have a lot to learn from what I'm looking here. So, but you're a strong guy. That's the thing. You're a strong guy too. So the last thing I would want is for your strength to be wasted by what you do in your program, where your program just, it gets you to a point where, yes, you're absurdly strong, but then like if you continue using like subpar programming practices at the same time as being like very, very strong, you know, that's when you're going to run into like recovery issues, overuse injuries, and all these other things. And that's why I'm really concerned. If you're a strong person, the details become more and more important the stronger you get, because at the point that you just become objectively strong, where you're just lifting some heavy ass shit, like it just becomes very difficult to justify certain training decisions and programming decisions. So that's it for this video. Like I said, this was not meant in any type of way to, like, I didn't mean to offend you, you know. I really, and I'm hoping none of that came across, because you know, with these program reviews and critiques, it's hard to be honest without also coming off as a little, like, you know, confrontational or overly critical. But at the same time, like I said, it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of care. It's coming from a place of concern. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.